Okay, so what we're talking about today is transitioning a little bit into just real quick sample workflows for the inbound and outbound roles. After that, we're going to talk about how you get paid. That's probably something that's important to you. And then finally, we'll talk about ingredients for cold calls here. How does that sound for you?
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about how this works, big picture. A lot of times we get so like really granular that it's really like we lose sight of like what's actually happening big picture. So we are in the marketing department, and the whole job of marketing is to create engagement and awareness. So um, many of those things are like blogs, articles, but ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to create leads, right? So this is an example of a lead that could be created. Here's a free asset that our marketing department wrote. And over here, download the ebook. So if someone wants this, so we'll be sent, let's just say you work at apple.com, right?
Mhm.
If you click download here, boom, the automation, this will show up as a lead object in Salesforce, all right?
Right.
So this is an example of one type of lead. This is what we call a content lead. Another one is request to contact sales at GitLab. This is the highest converting lead type is when someone fills this out, this will get routed to us. Okay.
What's the last interesting moment called for this?
Um, I think it's I think it's request to contact sales, but I think it's contact request.
Okay, cool.
Um, Next one is trials. So trials is something where people literally will start a GitLab trial. It shows up as an MQL, and sometimes I see these closed as like multi-million dollar deals. So some of them are a lot of them. So here's the thing about trials. We have a lot of trial leads. A lot of them are kind of junk because it's like a student or someone who's trying to apply for a job here is just like checking it out, you know? But the main thing is if it is a business email domain. So if it's like a gmail.com, then that's not exactly a great trial lead. But if it's like actually a company account with the right title, then this could be really big for us. Okay. So anyway, so just short of like big picture, what's happening? Marketing is trying to create leads. So this is what we call top of funnel. We want to create leads. These leads then go to sales development, and sales development is we are filtering these, right? Because some of them are good, some of them are bad, and we're qualifying. So the leads, sometimes they go to SDR and sometimes they go to BDR. We'll talk a little bit about why. As you already know, our job is to qualify, and our job is also to sell, right? We want to go like it's a combination of like, hey, is this a real opportunity? But also like, hey, we want to use our sales messaging to also increase interest as well. For the qualified leads, these leads go to sales. And then sales, their job is to then like close business into and then generate money for the company, right? So that's how all this works. Big picture. Wrong slides. Okay, so now let's just go through the workflow from if you get an MQL, right? So how this would work for us is someone fills out a form. It shows up as a lead in Salesforce. After it shows up in this as a lead in Salesforce, you would use the right sequence to go sequence this lead. The main collections, so a collection is like a folder of sequences, is the inbound sequence collection. So this is where you can see things like trial and contact requests and content. A lot of these are in the inbound collection. Okay, so any questions about the inbound workflow? Can I help clarify anything?
Sorry, one question. I'm looking at TT103 just for the level up, and I don't see a document associated with it. Is there no homework for this section?
Yeah, there's no homework for this one. The homework is doing your job. Okay, there was one thing I need to correct. Trial stuff is in here, contact request is in here, but I'm not sure if content is in here. I think content is another collection. Okay, so that's the inbound workflow. Now let's go through the outbound workflow. At a high level, what are we doing? We're selecting accounts. After that, we select people in those accounts. After that, we import leads into Salesforce, either through something like LinkedIn or Zoom Info. And then we're selecting and sequence to go outbound with these people. So ways to optimize. Number one, are you selecting the right accounts? Number two, are you selecting the right people? Do you guys remember the persona that we generally target in these accounts? Remember TT103?
It's a DevSecOps leader, right?
Yeah, DevSecOps leader, right? Great. The other thing is right account. So we use this thing called 6sense. We also have another thing called qualified. So these are both what we call intent data tools. Every time someone interacts with our website, they're getting tracked. And from a data-driven perspective, if some people are on certain parts of our web page, we have found that there are higher propensity to convert. So what I mean by that is if people are looking at a lot of our stuff, and if people are looking at things like our pricing page, that's higher propensity to convert for us. Okay. So the difference between qualified and 6sense is qualified is tracking them interacting with our website. 6sense, we buy cookie data from a third party. So if an account like Apple is just searching for DevSecOps in general, and they're not on our webpage, we still get that information. So in other words, if an account is looking for something like DevSecOps in general, we bought that cookie data so we can still outbound to them. Why outbound to a random account when you can go outbound a company that's actually looking for DevSecOps, right? So that's a little bit about optimizing for the BDR side. Number one is, are you selecting the right accounts? Number two, are you selecting the right people in the accounts? For more information on how to use qualified, check out the outbound course in Level Up. But there's no homework assigned with that right now. Okay.
I have a quick question. So I got my first qualified notification today, and I went right to it. And this account is I believe it's already working for me, but I noticed that an SDR like messaged right away. Should that have happened, or
There are rules for engagement for this. Let's dive into that at the end of this call or later,
okay?
if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So after you have these leads, we want to prospect with them. One collection that has a lot of great sequences in it is the good outbound collection. And so then we're just trying to get meetings, right? Okay, so now let's just go through a bunch of terminology. Every business that you go to calls these things a little bit different. And I want to talk with you about how you get paid, all right? So you have a cold call and Elon Musk picks up. He says, yeah, let's go meet sometime later this week. Okay. You have the cold call. It's you and Elon. Even though it's promising, this isn't what we get paid on. Okay. Okay. So you and Elon say, let's reconnect earlier next week. Okay. How about Monday at 2? Sounds good. You have that call. That second call is what we call discovery call. The purpose is to sell Elon a bit, but also to qualify if this is a real opportunity. Is Elon just generally curious about GitLab, or does Elon actually have like real buying intent? Okay. So let's just say that he is, so this would be generally between you and Elon. After this, you can create a stage 0 opportunity in Salesforce, and you don't get paid on this. Okay. So you will create the stage 0 opportunity. What I mean by this is an opportunity in Salesforce. Over here, it says stage. So right here, this is a stage 1 opportunity. You will create it as stage 0. Okay. So you create the stage 0 opportunity. What ends up happening is then you set up the next meeting, and that's the sales handoff call. All right. If that meeting is successful, sales talks with it, they like it, then they will go in and they will edit this field to change it to stage 1 discovery. The moment that they do that, that's when you are marked for compensation on this and it retires quota. So in other words, usually people accumulate a bunch of stage 0s, and then a lot of times we have to remind sales, hey, flip this. This meeting happened later. Like it was successful. Let's flip them, right? And then that's what turns into like a stage 1 opportunity. Okay. We call this IQM, and that's you, the prospect, and sales. Okay, so there's one more thing to know about this. Sometimes sales wants to go on your discovery calls, so it's not like a hard and fast rule, but in general, this is how this works. Can I help clarify anything with this?
Can you do any qualifying on that very first call?
Yeah, so you can, if he's like the person you have is super chatty. Generally, for a cold call, best practice is set the meeting real quick, 1 minute tops, and then just get out because you're interrupting someone's day, right? But like, let's just say that someone's like wants to talk, then yeah, you can qualify in the first call. Okay, so this is an example of sales stages. Sales can edit this, we cannot. And now I want to talk about actively working accounts. So when I said earlier, marketing creates leads. After marketing creates leads, then some of them go to SDR and some of them go to BDR, right? So here's something that you may have to deal with is figuring out, hey, I don't want to say like, you need to know how this works because there are some times in which it might get confusing. So you have to like know what's yours, right? So let me just give you an example. So let's just say you're a BDR and you're calling people, you're calling people. Remember, how our scoring works is that you have to get to a certain amount of points for the lead to turn into an MQL. So if the person downloads an asset, goes up, looks at our webpage, goes up, finally hits a certain threshold, this turns into an MQL, right? So let's just say you're the BDR. You're calling the account, people are looking at our stuff. You're calling the account, people are looking at our stuff. Finally, MQLs. So the MQL got generated. Generally speaking, MQLs go to the SDR team because they're responsible for inbound. But in this instance, is it fair for the SDR to get the MQL considering you created all the interest, which created the MQL?
No.
No,
Why not?
because
'Cause-
we're already working the account and
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that makes no sense, right? So this is why sometimes BDRs get MQLs. So there's a concept of this thing called actively working accounts. The accounts that you are actively working, put it as actively working. And then if an MQL comes in through those accounts, then it will go to you. If it's not an actively working account, it will go to SDR. So let me just say this again. Having actively working accounts gives you more MQLs. So as a BDR, you want to have actively working accounts. You also want to keep them current with the accounts that you're actually prospecting. Okay. Okay. The next thing is opportunity qualification criteria. We have 3 main ones. Have you guys heard of BANT before? Budget, authority, need, timeline.
Evan.
Okay, so what we do over here is authority, need, and timeline. We actually don't have budget as like a necessary thing. When you create an opportunity in Salesforce, there's a bunch of fields here. So the more stuff you can fill in, the better it is for sales. So some of it you can get on your call, some of it you can get from something like Zoom Info. What I mean by that is like current tool chain. You can get that from many of our database tools, right? But certain things is like potential seats for this opportunity. That's something that you need to get from the call. You're not going to be able to get that from like a third party source. Okay. But once again, our criteria is authority, need, and timeline. Okay. Last part is compensation. So I'm gonna go over the SDR compensation, even though y'all aren't SDRs, because I think it's important to just understand how the other side works. Okay. So they have a quota for the number of opportunities that are generated. It's a ramp quota, just like y'all's are. It's 25, 50, 70 per 5%, just like it's y'all are. And they are compensated. It's an interesting hybrid role right now. It's the number of opportunities generated, except if it's a SMB opportunity and the deal size is small. So if it's 10 users or less, they're actually responsible for directing them to close the business via the web service portal. So in other words, it's a hybrid closing role and SDR role. For small transactions, their job is to direct these people to the web direct portal and to buy it themselves. Okay, so let's just say that at the end of the month, they hit 100%. They have 15 opportunities, and 2 of them are businesses that are SMB for 6 users that bought GitLab by the self-service portal. So then in total, they hit 100%. You see? So you add up these two. It's opportunities and number of small SMB transactions closed by the self-service portal. Okay. So what's the threshold for SMB? 10 users or less, they have to bring it to the self-service portal. If it's 11 more or more, then they pass it off as an opportunity as per normal to sales. And there are some exceptions. So if it's Duo Pro, if they want Ultimate, if they want multi-year, or if they need a purchase order. Okay. So now for y'all as BDRs. So you guys have a pipeline contribution target. And so you have a base compensation, then you have a variable compensation. Out of your variable compensation, there are 2 components. Number 1 is the S1 target. Number 2 is the S3 target. So remember, like, sales really is kind of a funnel too. So it's another funnel, right? And then there's like stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, right? And at the end is when they close. So we used to have this target where it's just a number of meetings that are generated, but we changed it so that it's stage 1 and stage 3. What's the advantage for having a target for stage 1 and stage 3? Why would a business care that opportunity is actually going down the funnel?
Close the sale.
Right? Yeah. So if we as BDRs, we're just generating junk, that's bad for the business. So we not only are generating meetings, but the meetings need to be high quality as well. The higher quality meetings we generate, the more you're going to get to stage 3 and the higher your stage 3 compensation is going to be. Okay. So we used to have, so you have a pipeline target. And what we have found is that stage 0 pipeline is very inaccurate. So we used to do this thing where it's like you talk with this manager, the manager has 7 people. So we just think it's 7 users times premium price. And that's like the pipeline target, right? What we've realized is that that is wildly inaccurate because by the time it closes 8 months later, it turned into $400,000, right? So stage 0 pipeline target is very inaccurate. So your pipeline target is actually based off of historical sales price. So what they did was they found the average like sales price for pipeline generated from these meetings. And then so that's how they came up with our targets. So let me just give you an example. So here's a mayor. For a mayor enterprise, I need a generator. Actually, this is the wrong SQS. Okay, so for a mayor enterprise, the average deal size is $55,000. So your pipeline that you retire from your quota for a mere enterprise is this. Okay. So then they did the math. A mere or EMEA enterprise, it's $68,000 average deal price. That's the amount of quota that's retired from these transactions. Okay. So so once again, we care about S1. We also care about S3. And these are the two components of your variable comp. Also, you have this like target account list. The target account list gives you a 40% bonus. So if you get an opportunity from the target account list, whatever value here, just multiply it 1 times 1.4, and that's how much pipeline you retire. Okay. This is now wrong. So, okay, cool. Any thoughts about this?
For the target account list, is that just are we able to filter that out as a report in Salesforce?
You should talk with your manager about your target account list, and
Okay.
it should be visible to you in Salesforce. Okay. Okay, so there's one more thing to talk about right now. And I showed you this before. This is current as of May 8th, 2024, but sometimes when you have a meeting, you get one opportunity. Sometimes in a meeting, if you get them interested in multiple things, you can actually get 2 opportunities. So let me just give you an example of this. You talk with someone who doesn't own GitLab, you're BDR, you're operating in enterprise space, and then you have a meeting and you say, hey, we're a software delivery platform and we have great AI functionality. And then they say, oh, I want to hear more about this and I'm interested in your AI functionality. Okay. In this example, you actually get 2 opportunities. So in terms of pipeline contribution for a mere enterprise, you get $110,000 of quota retired. So keep this in mind, is that when you're starting out, if you mention some of our other products, sometimes you can get 2 opportunities. And then that's a great way to stack the deck. You only did the work for like 1 meeting, but if they're interested in multiple things, then you get paid out double, right? So the main thing about this is if they're interested in our AI stuff. If they're interested in our AI stuff as a BDR, you get 2 opportunities. Now, for future people that are listening to this recording, this may change. Also, it's per segment and also your role. So what I mean by that is there are certain segments where what I just said only applies to BDRs for enterprise and commercial. Okay. Okay. Any thoughts about our compensation? Another thing about this needs to get updated because we made the average sales price the same for first order and growth. This column, please ignore this column. Okay. Okay. Any thoughts about anything I've shared so far?
Everything's making sense so far for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
same here. I think a lot of this is review from stuff we've already done as well.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk about cold call best practices now, and then we are going to transition from our enablement for the rest of this is going to be mock calls. So some things about these mock calls, I'm going to go email you some cold call scripts and also a YouTube list of past customer calls. So it's a great learning resource. Our first mock call tomorrow is going to be an inbound mock call. Our second one will be an outbound mock call. So in the first one, so a lead got generated. It was a CI/CD ebook, and then we sequenced them and we set a meeting. Okay. Or excuse me, and it's the call step of that sequence. So we haven't set the meeting yet. We're trying to set the meeting. Okay. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. And so I will send that out today. Any thoughts about that or anything I can clarify?
I guess just, is there anything, should we prep before? Are we gonna go through anything tomorrow before the calls?
Here's what I would say. If your homeworks are in, and the two main things I would love for you to have is either a relevance-based opener or a pattern interrupt, and also an elevator pitch. Those are the two things I'd love for you to have for tomorrow. And then I would look at some of the resources. You don't need to study them, but like I would look at them, you know?
Well,
Cool. Okay, so let's go through some cold call best practices here. I don't know what your past experience is, but this is what we teach here at GitLab, right? So the first way is starting out with a pattern interrupt or a relevance-based opener. And so let me just explain the reasoning for this. So let's just say you're going to the mall. There's only one entrance. You're 100 yards away. There's a bunch of people who they look like they work for some nonprofit and they're soliciting everyone for money. You have to go by them. How does that make you feel knowing that someone's going to ask you for money in like 15 seconds? Give me an emotion word.
I guess anxious.
Yeah, I was gonna use the exact same word, anxious.
Okay. It makes me feel anxious too. So now think about it from the nonprofit's perspective. If 95% of the people who are walking past you are anxious, how does that change their conversion rate? Is it higher or lower?
Lower.
Lower.
Right? Okay, so now third question. When we saw those people and got anxiety, is that something that we consciously chose to feel, or is it something that happened automatically?
Automatically.
Automatically, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. Every time we cold call someone, just like how that nonprofit solicited anxiety, generally when we cold call people, we subconsciously trigger them to be like anxious or angry in some way. So it's not our fault, but we just need to understand that's how we're impacting people, right? So the idea with the pattern interrupt is human beings have a subconscious emotional trigger to do certain things in certain scenarios. Therefore, we have to be non-traditional somehow to short circuit and get a new type of to not trigger that emotional reaction, right?
Mm.
So I'll just tell you a story. So famous salesperson working for Salesforce, enterprise account executive doing his cold calls. It's winter time. Starts his cold call. He starts getting sick, but this person is like the top salesperson. He's still going to do his cold calls, right? And he calls someone and ring, ring. Hello, hello. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, sorry. Can I get a second? Yeah, take your time. Sorry. You okay? Yeah, yeah. Hey, so sorry about that. Yeah, I think I'm getting the flu or something. Yeah, yeah, how can I help you? Yeah, well, the reason why I'm reaching out is because I'm working with Ramona and JB and some other people in your group about XX, and they asked me to go reach out to you because you're the person in charge of Y. I'm Blank from Salesforce, and then the reason why they told me to reach out is that you guys are having some issues with Blank, but Salesforce, that's what we solve here, and so they were just inviting me to loop you in, right? So I kind of made up that example, but the point is that we're not asking you to go cough on the phone. What we are saying is that having a pattern interrupt that actually works is going to make it so that you don't trigger this subconscious emotional pattern, which is going to help you get better results. Okay. So our ask is that you have a pattern interrupt. Okay. The other thing is a relevance-based opener. If you're calling me, I'm not even an executive, but I do have a crazy schedule. You have to have a really specific, real reason to reach out. According to a lot of my research, the number one converting opener is, hey, I'm calling you your competitor. So if I'm calling McDonald's, I'd say, hey, I'm calling you about Burger King. Right. So that's an idea of a relevance-based opener. Another relevance-based opener is, hey, I saw that you guys were dealing with digital transformation initiatives, especially migrating to the cloud. Well, just letting you know, GitLab helped company migrate to the cloud 4 months faster. So I was just wondering if we could add value to you as well. Another relevance-based opener is using referrals. Hey, I talked with blank and blank on your team, and they told me that you're having issues with software development because there's a lot of disjointed processes. Just letting you know that's exactly what GitLab solves. And blank told me that you're the person in charge of tooling at company, right? So that's the referral relevance-based opener. So I just gave you a couple. One is using referrals. Two is using company initiative. And yeah, so those are two ideas of a relevance-based opener. Okay. Any thoughts about this? Okay, great review for you guys. So number two is elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. So ultimately in sales, people make decisions according to emotions. The vast majority of people make decisions according to emotions, right? So we want people to feel something. And sometimes you get a call where someone is like, fine, okay, and they kind of want to hang up on you, but you can tell they're kind of trying to blow you off, but they're too afraid to do it, right? So you have to reset their emotions somehow. One way that you can reset their emotions is by addressing it head on and saying, hey, um, I recognize that I'm interrupting you in the middle of the day. That'd probably really make me kind of annoyed if I were in your shoes. Can I just tell you in 10 seconds why I called and how I can add value to you? Right? So sometimes it's like if someone's like angry or upset or something, just like addressing it head on and asking about it can help to defuse that and make people feel honored. Okay. That's the elephant in the room. The next thing is an upfront contract. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios. Okay. So you're having dinner right now. Hey, this is Chris from Covenant Solar. Do you have 10 minutes so that I can share with you the power of solar panels? It's 1. Hey, this is Chris from Covenant Solar. Do you have 32 seconds for me to share with you about the power of solar? Hey, this is number 3. Hey, this is Chris from Covenant Solar. Do you have 32 seconds so that I can share about how I'm saving your neighbors a lot of X amount of money on their energy bill? Okay, which one did you like the most?
Number 3.
Why?
Because it was super specific and it gave me a short amount of time that I can sit there and listen so I can get back to dinner.
Okay. What's the difference between number 2 and number 3? Number 2 was, do you have 32 seconds for me to share with you about solar? 3 was, hey, do you have 32 seconds so that I can share about how I'm saving neighbor money off of their energy bill?
It was a referral, kind of referencing neighbors,
Social proof. What else?
what you can solve.
We're making it about them,
Mhm.
right? Okay, so here's the power of the upfront contract. Don't make it about us. So much of sales and so much of the entire world is about us. Make it about them. Hey, I'd love to share with you about how we can save you money off of your solar bill. Make it about them. How do you add value to them? Don't make it about us. A lot of our messaging and email messaging is about us. GitLab is so great because we do blank, 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 and blank. Do you have time to meet? Make it about them. Hey, do you have challenges with blank and blank? Well, just letting you know that GitLab is used by company and company for blank and blank. I'd love to see if this is a way that we can add value to you as well. Make it about them. Okay. Okay, elevator pitch. Here's two. We're a best-in-class DevSecOps platform with functionality spanning all phases of software development delivery. GitLab, so that'd be like for a cold call. For an actual like discovery call, I like to use this one. You don't have to use it. It's long, but I like it. GitLab is a platform for software development delivery. This means we try to do everything that GitHub, Jenkins, Jira, and SonarQube do, all under a single user interface. The reason why I like this is because this is inherently a crazy statement. They have this. So this is like saying, hey, I have a car that's also a bike, that's also a helicopter. It's powerful because it's inherently a crazy statement. You see what I mean? Okay. Next call to action, short, concise, clear. Hey, do you have 20 seconds? Hey, I know I'm interrupting you, but I feel like we have something going. I want to honor your schedule. You want to connect on later this week, 20 minutes. Talk about this further, right? Make sure you confirm their email. For things that are technical, you can set another meeting theoretically to solve that, but make sure that you either have the answer or you have a resource that it can actually add value to them, right? The availability of essays depends on your segment. So make sure that it works for when you talk with your manager about how to loop in essays, right? How does that work? Okay. Okay. Any thoughts about cold calls or move on to discovery calls?
We can move on to discovery.
Okay, cool. We use authority, need, and timeline. So ANT. Check in also with your manager. There may be additional process for your team. Okay. Okay, technical questions. There's the question Slack channel. This is a great way to get an answer. Let me just share with you a little bit about what's on here right now. So if I go to the question Slack channel, then you can see this is persons in sales asking for a question. This person's in sales, this asking a question. This person is in sales asking a question, right? So this is part of the purpose of the question Slack channel. The other way to get information is literally just looking in Google. So if you just look up most things, GitLab, CI/CD, getting started, then Google is your friend for finding resources, and then finding great resources for people is a way to honor them. So that's something to take into consideration too. Okay. All right, the last thing I want to talk about real quick is trap setting questions. A trap setting question is a question that creates either urgency or demand. So what I mean by that is ring, ring. Hey, this is Chris from your local Honda dealership. How are you doing today? Right? Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for calling. I love my Honda. So I'm not sure if there's a need. Yeah, totally understand. That's not the reason why I was calling though. I was just trying to connect and also tell you about some of the things that we have going on. But you said that you like your Honda. What do you like about it? Well, it's really reliable. I love its price point, and those are two things that really matter a lot to me. Also safety. Okay. Well, yeah, we hear that all the time. I love my Honda for those exact same reasons, is safety and price and reliability. Just letting you know, however, that your Honda is a 2008. According to our records, you're at 170,000 miles. And because you mentioned that cost and reliability are things that matter to you, just letting you know that as you get more than 160,000 miles, you're going to have to start replacing the transmission, usually at X amount of miles. You're going to have to start thinking about changing your timing belt at this amount. And because you mentioned that price is an something that matters for you. I was just wondering if this promotion or this promotion is something that makes sense for you, right? So what I'm trying to say is like, I took what they said and then I used it to add value to what they said. Another example so that's one idea of using questions. A trap setting, that actually wasn't a great example of a trap setting question. Another example of a trap setting question is like, you like your Honda. That's awesome. Notice you had a 2008 Honda. Um, what do you like about it? Well, I love that it's reliable and I love its low cost point. Okay, great. Yeah, so those are the reasons why I love my Honda too. Do you feel excited about picking someone up from the airport with your Honda? Well, not really. I bought it for its cost and its efficiency. Yeah, totally understand. I noticed that you had a gray model. But yeah, so the reason why I asked this is we have some promotions on Acura, which are a little bit sportier, and I was wondering if I could add value to you, right? So the first example was an idea of just general questions and then using it to add value. The second one is I'm asking a question that like creates demand or urgency. Okay. Um, so that's a trap setting question. Okay. That is it for today's session. So once again, we have mock calls tomorrow, and I will never ask you to do something I'm not willing to demonstrate myself. So I'll go first, and you guys can haze me, and we'll have fun. Okay, so I'm going to send you an email about some resources to prepare for tomorrow. Can someone tell me something that they should have by tomorrow?
Like a disruptor.
Yeah, pattern interrupt our relevance-based opener. And number two, what was the other
Ele-
that I asked for?
Elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch. Okay, awesome. You don't have to use mine, but have something that you feel confident with. If you ran into a director of engineering now, well, like you should feel confident saying it. Okay, cool, awesome.